As a resident of Lagos State, what is your level of familiarization with the tax landscape of the state? Are you aware of the various types of taxes due to the state? How much do you know about the responsibilities of the collecting agency or even your obligations? This and many more are issues we consider on the Tax Talk. My name is Oyinlola Sale and I will be your host till the end of the show. Setting us off on today's episode is business news. Stay with us.
This is business news. Lawmakers in Lagos State have commended the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service for achieving an unprecedented milestone in revenue generation, surpassing 1 trillion naira. This landmark accomplishment positions LIRS as the first subnational revenue agency in Nigeria to attain such a feat, reflecting its professionalism, efficiency, and commitment to transparent tax administration. Former chairman of the House Committee on Economic Planning and Budgeting, Honorable Lukman Saad Olumo, alongside Honorable Femi Said, former chairman of the House Committee on Finance, lauded LIRS and its executive chairman, Mr. Ayodele Subaya, for their exemplary leadership and dedication to enhancing the state's revenue performance. In a formal congratulatory letter addressed to Mr. Subaya, Honorable Femi Said, who represent Koshofe 2 constituency, commended the LIRS team for their dedication, resilience, and strategic approach to revenue collection. Endorse it on Business News.
Calling on all tax professionals, policy makers, and business leaders to be a part of keynote sessions, expert panels, and transformative workshops designed to drive economic growth. The 27th Annual Tax Conference of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria is here. Date is 12th to 16th of May 2025. Venue is the Abuja Chambers for Commerce and Industry. We bring you 5 impactful days of insight, strategies, and solutions. Theme is Taxation for Development, Policies, Law, and Implementation. Discover groundbreaking ideas, engage in powerful discussions, and network with top professionals shaping the future of taxation. Mark your calendars. Together, we formulate. Together, we fabricate. Don't miss it.
Welcome back to the Tax Talk. Today, we're looking into the role of taxation in Nigeria's national development. With the help of Mr. Yomi Olugbenro, partner and West Africa tax leader, Deloitte, we will be looking at answering questions that border on compliance and public trust, sustainable development via the Agency of Taxation, and a few other areas. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so very much.
Let's dive right in. Let's begin by looking at taxation and economic diversification in the light of the upcoming tax bills, which will present Nigeria with the new tax policies. Are they to be restructured to reduce dependency on oil revenues and promote economic diversification?
Yes, no, absolutely. So I think one of the things that you will have noticed in the country over the years is the level of dependence on resource revenue, oil revenue. And what has happened with that is that the country had, gone up and things have deteriorated just in response to what's happening, within the crude space. So if oil price goes up, the country gets a lot of money, but these are variables that are, not totally within our control. And so over the years, effort has been on how to diversify government sources of revenue. And that's where the whole conversation around revenue transformation. How do we get more from all the other sources? Because you have tax revenue, you have oil revenue, government could make money from enterprises, that they own, and all of that, But the area of taxation is one that the country has seen that we really haven't maximized. There have been improvements over the years, and so the conversation around the tax reform is really about how do we optimize the yield to government, because the headroom is there.
Considering your research on taxation as a catalyst for sustainable national development, what specific tax policies would you recommend to achieve long-term economic growth and sustainability in Nigeria?
Yeah, you've asked me a question that I can take the whole day to keep responding
We're
to.
here. We're ready
this
to
is,
listen.
This is really something I'm passionate about. I've been doing taxation for now maybe well over 25 years. And one of the things I've seen around the world is how nations have used tax policy, fiscal policy generally, to tweak, what is going on within the polity, within the economy, provide cushion. They are raising more revenue, but they are raising it responsibly. They are raising it progressively. So if you situate that within the context of Nigeria's situation, I think a number of things that we need to think through. Number one, we need more money.
True.
No one can controvert that. Some statistics that I looked through recently from the medium-term expenditure framework. In 2023, federal government spent in total about 22.5 trillion naira. The total revenue they generated is 12.5 trillion. So that's a deficit of 10 trillion naira thrown, into debt. So from capacity to continue to service borrowings, if we continue that direction, we've essentially gotten to our limit. So you can imagine if there is no option to raise revenue. So government need more money. I think that's one fact that we must recognize. So I am, open to policy that will say, first, that policy must help us generate more money. Number two, that policy must be investment friendly or investment enabling, because at the end of the day, you can cry from morning till night and continue to desire that you make more money. If you don't capacitate individual and make them earn more, if you like, raise the tax rate to 100%. 100% of zero is zero, right? And 10% of 1,000 is 100. So it's about how much you empower individual, how much you allow businesses to thrive, how much you create an enabling environment for business to thrive. So the second pillar for me in terms of the tax policy that will help us to have fiscal sustainability and be able to raise revenue sustainably is that it must be investment enabling. You must create the structure to let small businesses thrive, which could mean some bit of tax rebates in the short term and encourage them to grow to a point where they're able to pay more. It must encourage people and investors to want to come into your economy and be able to invest. So that's the second pillar. So the first pillar is we want to generate more. It must be revenue generating. Number two, it must be investment enabling. Number three is it must also have what we call like fiscal discipline or responsible spending. And that is a pillar that talks to the morale. That is a pillar that talks to the culture. Now, if we have a system of government where the bulk of what is paid in taxes, people can't see judicious utilization for it, you're killing their morale, and they will do everything possible to hide their income, to avoid paying taxes, whether legal or illegal, and you can be in chase of everybody. So the tax policy that will help us to address all our issues in a holistic manner must also speak to that. The fourth one is the infrastructure, the technology, all right, the capacity building. If you pick few states in the country that are doing very well, you will see elements of these four things that I've spoken about. And I mean, it's not surprising that on the lips of everybody will mention Lagos State, right? We've seen Lagos State grown IGR and revenue collection, astronomically to what we have currently now. But it's also not surprising that it's in this same state that you have a lot more economic activity, because there are structure, there are arrangements to ensure that people are attracted. Every day you see truckloads of people coming into Lagos State, despite the fact that we claim that it's already stretched from a capacity perspective. Why? There has to be something that is attracting people from the environment that is being created, the opportunity to sell your service, to sell your product, and all of that. The third leg is the one that I said you must give the people the opportunity to see. People must see evidence of taxpayers' money at work. So, and then the fourth leg is around the technology and the capacity building. I think after the Federal Inland Revenue Service, which is a federal agency, I don't think anyone will argue with the fact that Lagos come right next in terms of the investment in infrastructure, using technology to pay, e-filing opportunity, e-payment, and e-tax generally.
Yes.
All right. So, and if we focus on all of that, all we need to do is to be able to replicate that across the subnationals, across all of the states, and even at the federal level. All right, and we will see a huge jump. For me, when I talk the capacity for what the country can make, I don't talk in terms of the growth rate. I talk in terms of the multiple. We can actually be making 4x, 5x of what we're making. The Federal Inland Revenue Services targets for 2025 is 25 trillion naira. So it's 25 in 25 trillion naira in 2025. At the minimum, we can make that 4x, 100 trillion naira, if we address at least those four things. And I'm happy that the conversations around reforming the system, introducing new set of tax laws and all of that is going to help us move a step closer, including the fact that we're going to have a brand new set of law, because maybe that's the fifth pillar I should have mentioned. We also need modern laws, that closes the loopholes and gaps so that compliance can be increased.
How can Nigeria balance the use of tax incentives to attract foreign investments with the need to maintain a robust revenue base?
No, yeah, I like that question because of the deliberate use of the word balance, right? Incentive is one of the ways you can create, an environment that attracts foreign direct investment and local investment. So if a particular investor knows that if I situate my business within this state or in this particular country, I have opportunity for rebate, I have opportunity for some concessions, you inadvertently see them rushing your way. Now, but we can't also throw it to everybody, and it can't be without control, and that's why I like the use of the word balance. So what do we need to do to use incentive if we recognize that it is one way by which we can attract a lot more and indirectly raise more revenue? So number one, we need to focus on where it really matters. You cannot incentivize everybody. We need human capital development, we need employment generation, and so if you direct your incentive to sectors that have the capacity to employ a lot more people, then it will be a worthwhile incentive. So, and which are those sectors? The SMEs, generally speaking, irrespective of your trade or your focus. Majority of the business in the country and in the state are micro, small, and medium businesses. So if we provide tax rebates, all right, or exemption or tax holidays to individuals that are SMEs, you will have directed incentive to an area where whatever you are not getting in direct taxes, you are getting in employment, you are getting in economic activity. So that's one sector. You can also look at the rest of the other sector, like manufacturing, like exports, like agriculture, those kind of sectors that have the capacity to employ more, and the ripple effect of what is happening within that particular sector can be of broader benefit. Everybody needs to eat. Everybody needs to feed. We need to be able to, feed a nation. So agriculture will be a huge, important sector to focus on. Export, manufacturing, because of the impact on forex, and all of that. So how the country can use incentive is to be able to direct the incentive to sectors where the impact can be significant. The second, we need to have rules and policy, because incentive can also not be open-ended. It can't be forever. What we've seen with some of the incentive we've had in the country is that they never have sunset clauses. That is, it never ends, all right? And so you see, areas or business sectors where you'll be wondering, what exactly are we incentivizing, in this particular sector? Or what sort of data are we using to really know that the expected return that the country is looking for, whether it's from investment, whether it's from employment, and all of that, we're getting it. So you don't have all of that. So beyond focusing on the right sector, you must have governance, rules around doing monitoring and evaluation to know that the incentive is really generating, or the individual who is claiming the benefit is actually doing what he says he will do. So not that you are giving rebate for someone you think is in agriculture, and the person is using, the business vehicle or the business, the business structure to do something completely else. Do you understand what I'm saying? So those are the kind of things that we do to be able to balance. If you put incentive for export, then you should have evidence that there's export earnings. If you give incentive because the sector is producing food, then you should see that food is being produced. If you give incentive because the individual is supposed to employ 2, 3, 4 people or retain them in his business, you need to have, the mechanism to be able to do monitoring and evaluation and ensure that the country is really taking the benefit that is worth the amount that is losing from direct cash taxes.
I must say, I've been paying attention to all you have said so far, and I'm sure the audience back at home have been informed and educated with all you have said. We would have loved to ask a few more questions, but right now we need to go on a quick break. We'll resume the conversation when we get back. Time for a short break. When we get back, be sure to keep that seat warm.
If you had a hard time with taxes and understanding tax administration in Lagos State and the complex nature of Nigerian tax law, do you know what agency or tier of government collects the various types of taxes? Have you ever found yourself asking any of these questions? Join us for your favorite program, The Tax Talk, your infotainment program.
Welcome back. I still have here with me Mr. Yomi Olugbenro on Corporate Talk, and we still have a few more questions. In light of the ongoing fiscal reforms and global economic trends, what is your outlook on the future role of taxation in Nigeria's national development?
Yeah, I think the direction of travel is that if we do the needful, and I'm stressing that if we do the needful with respect to pushing through, all of this reform and getting through the whatever challenges we may face when the implementation starts, I believe that we can significantly improve the fortune, of this country. I've spoken earlier that for me, we should be looking at the increase in our total
Very
yield as multiples of what we currently have. In the short to medium, our expectation is that we should be talking 4x, 4 times of what we're currently doing. But that will depend on a very deliberate, intentional focus on implementation, right? Because just changing the law will not implement itself, all right? We are changing the structure. Quite a lot of innovation is coming in, with the policy, but it's just going to be there on paper, all right? So how do we capacitate the revenue authorities, the officials? How do we invest in infrastructure? How do we ensure that we raise the tax culture, and the tax morale? What sort of transparency and accountability are we going to put in so that we really can maximize? So everywhere in the world, including, the #1 country in the world, the US, everybody is talking about taxes. Everybody is talking about, how do we make more from the domestic economy? And that's where I think the conversation should shift to. So as soon as we get the bills passed, I'm hoping we will, very soon, then all of the efforts should be focused on implementation and making sure that we really maximize the benefit of this effort that has been invested.
As we know, Lagos is seriously bridging the gap between the people and the government, but we might have some few taxpayers who still feel disconnected from the government in terms of their tax contributions and results. What could be done to improve their perception and encourage voluntary tax compliance?
Beautiful question, beautiful question. Quite honestly, as great as the state is doing, your question or your assertion is very right. There's also the majority of the people who still feel, why am I paying, taxes? What's the tax being used for? So we just need to address that. So how do we address that? Maybe a lot more sensitization, this type of program, for example.
Exactly.
That's what is there, so people know.
And the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service is doing that
so
as well?
we must clap for LRS.
Thank you.
That is concerned, right? So more enlightenment, and then also more about showing where the money is going, right? When the people paying taxes see judicious utilization of their tax revenue, trust me, you have done a lot at encouraging them and making them feel like they've done the right thing. So we need to show a lot more. We need to see more programs, maybe even on tax talk. So you bring in, commissioners or officials of the state government to just come and talk about where is the money going. Let's see video. Let's use the social media. Let's use every avenue to let the people trace where the money is going. The third that we can do is also greater level of probity and transparency with our government officials. The truth is that we can do a lot more by showing the people that what is coming in as taxes is not being filtered away with all, with white elephant project or with, lavish living by our executives and by our appointed officials. Extremely, extremely important. What I tell people is that when this reform gets passed, not my choice of word, when, not if, when it gets passed, you will get to a point where the individual stops seeing, money as our money. You get people to start talking about money from a personal basis, my money.
Exactly.
When you use resource money, when you use, you share crude oil money, and all of that, most of the time citizens see it as our money. When we get through with this reform and we get to a point where a lot more people are in the tax net, you are going to raise the social consciousness of the people. They're going to ask more questions. They're going to ask their leaders more questions. They're going to ask whether we need X number of cars in the convoy of an official of the government, for example. They're going to start asking questions whether the government official is justified to fly certain number of people overseas for certain type of training or conferences that one or two people could do. You're going to get people asking questions whether we need, government officials to be flying private when just a little amount of revenue is what is available. So we really need to also focus on that probity side of things, accountability. We need people to see a lot more.
We need transparency.
We need transparency. We need accountability. All right. If we do that, we will have raised the morale. We will have raised, we will have. It's a social contract. You want the people to pay their taxes, but you want the government to receive those taxes and use it to benefit the people. When we do that, we will get a lot more people interested in, contributing their quota.
A big thank you to you, sir, for taking us through this topic on Corporate Talk today. It has been an amazing conversation with you, and we hope to have more of you on the Tax Talk.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely being here. Sure, we'd love to be back here.
That's all for Corporate Talk. We take a short break and return with Tax Did It. Remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across social media platforms. Our handles come up on screen at intervals during the course of the show. That's where you don't miss a thing. It's now time for Tax Did It. As you will see, when it comes to the good use of our taxes, plenty every day's day. No need to explain tire. It's been an entertaining ride on the Tax Talk. I'm willing to bet $1 million that you definitely learned something today. On account of that, I expect you to be here next week so we do this again. My name is Oyinlola Saleh and this has been the Tax Talk.